The topic of this video is how to avoid grammatical errors while you're writing. This is different than proofreading. This is creating something that's accurate as you go. It's in real time writing that helps you make decisions that will avoid errors. This is best for all the kinds of writing that you do that's under pressure and that's timed and that your proofreading phase is lightning fast. Why don't you just produce something that's accurate the first time so you don't have to spend hours and hours fixing it up? The first point I want to talk to you about is that clearer is better. As a standalone statement, this is obvious to you, but I want to suggest that it's sentence length that is most often the cause of unclear writing, and more specifically, long, complicated sentences. If you're trying to sound smart or academic or fancy and you're writing these huge mile-long sentences, it's very likely your reader's frustrated and confused. And also likely that you've misplaced a comma or missed some punctuation somewhere. Experienced writers change the way a sentence is worded to avoid an error all the time. I do this. I'll be writing and I'll think, I have no idea how to punctuate this. I have no idea how to get to the period accurately. I'm just going to back up and start this idea differently. Experienced writers do that rather than thinking, I just should know how to punctuate this and it's because I'm not a good writer that I can't, so I'm just going to push forward and try to look up how to punctuate it later. No, write sentences that you know make sense and that are accurate. Short is sweet, fine, and very appreciated by tired readers. Big words are not better. In the same way that long sentences are not helpful, big, fancy words are not necessarily helpful. Use only words you know. Don't use the thesaurus or the dictionary. Those are for looking up words as you read, but not as you write. So I want to make that clear to you because writers often use writing as an opportunity to expand their vocabulary. Not good. Use class discussion. When you hear a word spoken that you don't understand, look it up then. Use your reading experiences, your marginalia, to expand your vocabulary. Look up words as you read, but when you're writing, only use words you know. Third, and I've said this in a previous video, but I want to remind you to practice with your handbook before you're in the place of writing under pressure. Have in your mind's eye some of the trouble spots for you as a writer from your handbook, and then know how to correct or avoid those errors as you're going. So be a student of grammar. And then as you're composing, it'll pay off. Another repeated point, editing last and saving time for that. I want to emphasize that it's still important to proofread emails, discussion board postings, timed writing pieces, career documents, edit everything as well as edit last. Even if you have 10 minutes to get the email sent to your supervisor, 2 of the 10 minutes is spent with ensuring accuracy as you're going. Reading backwards. Don't rely on spell check. In an exercise in one of your discussion board postings, I'll have you look at commonly misspelled words. For me, it's your and your. I am certain of the distinction between Y-O-U-R and Y-O-U''re. I'm not confused, yet my fingers make the mistake almost every single time I write the word your or your, the contraction. The only thing I can do is know that about myself, not rely on spell checker. It won't correct it because Y-O-U''re is not a misspelled word. It's just inappropriate for the context. So the only hope I have is to look and query every single piece of writing that I do and look at the yours and the yours and see if I've messed up. And I usually have every single time. Avoid contractions. Those are your, Y-O-U''re, don't, can't, shouldn't, rather than do not, cannot, should not. Those are typically considered less formal. As a reader, they don't actually bother me, and my composition students, I don't emphasize that with them. But if you're really wanting to be careful about academic convention and formality, avoid the contractions and stick to the more formal constructions which avoid the apostrophe. My final writing advice is to think carefully about repeating keywords and not to be afraid of using the same word the same way over and over again. I know you're thinking it's boring and choppy if, for example, you use the word low income over and over and over in a paper about low income students. But I want to suggest to you that repeating that keyword is actually probably just being clear. Think about the following terms. Okay, poverty-stricken, poor, low socioeconomic status, disadvantaged, lacking access to resources. Do those all mean exactly the same thing? Is that really a good set of terms to replace low income in your paper about low income students? Not necessarily. Of course, disadvantaged is different than low income. Lacking access to resources is different than low income. So you get my point that sometimes synonyms actually function to obscure meaning and to make your writing less clear. Don't be afraid to repeat key ideas. You're being precise and accurate, not repetitive. Readers almost never notice how often you've used a word as much as you do. Trust me, they're just grateful that they understand your point, that you're focused, and that your ideas are all adding up to make a solitary, single, objective claim.